It is kind of funny to me how the US bank card targets the Costco card in a lot of ways. What's up guys, it's Sebastian from Ask Sebby Business, and today we're looking at the Citi Costco Business Card. This is a fan favorite card, and we're going to look at it from 3 different levels. Number 1 is going to be the base earn rates, number 2 is going to be comparing it to some other options, and number 3 is why you might want to skip the card even if it is a pretty good one. Big favor before we dive into all of this is to give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, and if you are someone new here and you want to maximize the cash back, maybe some cool trips that you can do from your business spend, then consider subscribing. Taking a look at the multipliers, the card is pretty competitive. You're going to get 4% back on gas and EV charging, including at Costco, for the first $7,000 of spend per year, and then 1% afterwards. If you are someone that spends more than that, then we do have another card that we talk about that is pretty good as well. Back to the Costco card, you'll also get 3% back at restaurants, 3% for eligible travel, 2% for Costco, and also Costco.com, and 1% everywhere else. On the personal side, if you were comparing this to other personal cards, then this does feel a little bit weak, but if you are only looking at business cards and you can't use personal cards, then these numbers are pretty solid. A big part of this is because on the personal ends, the baseline that you expect for no annual fee cards is 2% everywhere, while on the business side, it's closer to 1.5%, so 2% for Costco is competitive. In order to get and keep the card, you do need to be a Costco member, and we talk about some considerations in part 3. One thing to be careful with is not to commingle executive membership with the benefits of the card. The main fear is that it ends up inflating the value, and I love executive membership. It gets you 2% back on all of your Costco purchases that you end up getting as a check, but just don't commingle it because it is separate. So what I mean by this is a lot of people will look at the Costco card and think that, well, I'm getting 4% back at Costco because I have exec. But if you had a Chase card or pretty much any other card and you shopped at Costco, you're still getting that 2%. So it has nothing to do with the Costco card by itself. In terms of weaknesses, I would say the protections and the other perks are going to be its Achilles heel. I would personally not rely on this as my mainstream travel card unless you maybe only do one trip a year and you want to buy insurance separately. A big reason for this is because Citi, the partner company, ended up getting a lot of their travel perks a few years ago when they realized that they couldn't really compete with Chase and the other big boys, so it's just not as competitive now. Put another way, would you rather have 3% back with the Costco card with no protections, or 3% back with another card? Maybe it has an annual fee, but you also have a ton of protections. And that's ignoring the personal side where there's a ton of no annual fee cards that earn 3% back that also have protections. So in your shoes, I'd happily use this card when I'm traveling, but I would not book my travel with it. On a complete side note and tangent for about 15 or 20 seconds, if you ever make your way to Southeast Asia or other countries that have Costco, try to visit them because it is a pretty cool experience. In a lot of ways, it's pretty familiar. It's the same setup, but instead of having some hot dogs and stuff, they oftentimes have local items. And yeah, just everything else is local oriented. So it's just very cool. When I went to Taiwan, they had the $5 whole chicken, but people were actually lining up for chicken wings instead. Main takeaway for part 1 is that it's a pretty solid card, especially if you are someone that has a Costco membership and you're intending to keep it in the long term. I'd argue that the main draws are going to be that 4% back for charging and gas, and also 3% back for dining. On that note, if you do want to learn about cards, whether it's this one or pretty much any other cards out there, and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksebby.com, and down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, but otherwise, it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. Okay, so for part 2, let's look at some alternatives. I'm going to try to focus on business cards because you're probably watching this channel because you care about business cards. I'll also focus more on the cashback ones, or the ones that are more cashback adjacent rather than the pure points ones. Obviously, a ton of interesting options if you do want to do Maldives and stuff, but I feel like that's beyond the scope of this video. Let's start from the top to the bottom because that's probably what you care about. Number 1 is going to be the 4% back on gas for the first $7,000 to spend per year. On one hand, for Team Cashback, Costco is leading the pack. For people who spend more in this category though, I would consider the US Bank Business Triple Cash Rewards card. So the big draw is that you earn 3% back on gas and EV, but it is not capped off. And in fact, let's actually do a break-even analysis because why not? Okay, so doing some math, if we have X at $7,000 of gas and then Y is anything above that, you kind of put this into a formula and solve for it, and we have Y at $3,500. This means that if you spend exactly $10,500 in gas per year, then you're impartial, but if you spend more than that, the triple is a better pick. And in fact, I'll put some math on the screen with proofs, but you can kind of see how the US Bank triple would win in the long term. For the 3% back on travel, I would consider the Chase Inc. Preferred Card. Here you're earning 3% back, or technically 3x ultimate reward points back for the first $150,000 in combined spend for a lot of different categories. One of the ones at the bottom of the list is going to be travel. The floor value of 3x ultimate reward points is 3% back, but if you do use pay yourself back or you decide to book travel through their portal, then you can get a bit more value, generally 1.5 or 1.25 cents per point. This means that 3x back could easily be 3.75 or 4.5%. And to be fair, there is an annual fee here, so maybe it is a skip, but it does make a lot of sense for a lot of business owners because if you have ad spend, it could easily pay for itself. In a lot of ways, I would say the Chase Ink Preferred is one of the grail business cards. For the 3% back on dining, we're jumping back to the US Bank Triple Cash that matches that 3%. It is kind of funny to me how the US Bank card targets the Costco card in a lot of ways. For the 2% back at Costco, it might make sense to consider the Chase Ink Unlimited. 1.5% back, which looks lower, but it's technically 1.5x ultimate reward points. Depending on the Chase setup you want to run and how you want to use those points, easily 1.25 or 1.5 cents per point, so 1.875 to 2.25% in value. And to be fair, there is a lot more hoop jumping, so maybe not a fair argument, not apples to apples. Another worthwhile contender would be the Capital One Spark Cash Plus, where you earn 2% back on everything. So 2% back at Costco is great, but 2% back everywhere is better. Main argument is that there is an annual fee here, so you do need to spend enough to justify that card. And again, this is a pretty simple analysis in comparison, ignoring cards like the Hilton and the Bonvoy ones that have different point programs and can get a lot more complicated. You might be able to get more value, but it's also less cashable. In relation to cash adjacent things, I think however you want to slice it, the Costco business is pretty formidable and a worthwhile competitor. As much as I crap on the personal version of the Costco, it's a lot harder to do that on the business side because there's just less good options. Okay, so for part 3, why should we not get the card even though it's pretty solid? I think there's 3 different reasons. Number 1 is the lack of an intro bonus. So for other cards, even though we generally don't cover intro bonuses for these types of reviews, you know you get something. It might be $150 or $200 for spending $500 in the first 3 months. On the flip side of the Costco business, oftentimes it's either nothing, maybe a chicken, some water, or a pack, or just something random. However you want to slice it, it's not substantive. It's not something I would really factor in as an intro bonus. So if you think about it and kind of do the math, in order to get the same $200 in value back from the Costco card, you would need to spend $10,000 at Costco. So $200 for spending $500 versus $200 for spending $10,000. I'd rather spend less. And obviously it depends on you and how much you spend. If you spend a lot, then great. But for a lot of smaller business owners and normal people, intro bonuses move the needle pretty substantially. Number 2, and I've heard mixed data points for this, generally speaking though, and per the terms, you need to keep your Costco membership in order to keep the card. And let me know in the comments if you've had a different experience with that because I feel like it is kind of everywhere. From a lot of the data points I've seen though, it sounds pretty similar to this one. So if you cancel or it expires, then they send you a notice of 90 days to renew the membership. If you fail to do that, then they cancel the card and any cash back that you earn will be forfeited. If you're someone that doesn't plan to move and you can see yourself consistently going to Costco for the rest of your life, then great. For a lot of people I know though, they're not specifically loyal to Costco. It's more so whatever's closest to them. So if they move around and let's say they move to a new city or something for work, then they're going to go to either the BJ's, Costco, or Sam's that's closest to them. Call me crazy, but I don't think most people want to drive 45 minutes to go to Costco if there's a Sam's that's 10 minutes away. So for me personally, this has been more of a deal breaker for the card because I don't really want a card that's tied to a membership that I might end up canceling in the future. I think you have to honestly ask yourself whether you see yourself shopping at Costco for the rest of your life. And the thing is, if it was more of a digital thing like Amazon, then I could see the case for that. But the fact that it's more physical oriented means that if you move, if life happens, then it might not fit your life. And to be fair, I'm an edge case in a lot of ways, but I've considered being a digital nomad and moving to Southeast Asia or Bali or something where there might not be a Costco. Actually, let me double check that. Bali, Costco. Okay, there is a Costco there, but you get the idea. Oh, there is not a Costco. There is a Costco of Bali. So kind of the equivalent. Your mileage may vary, so do what makes sense for you. Number 3, probably because I'm cheap, I end up flip-flopping memberships. So Mandy might have it for 2 years and then I'll have it for 2 years. The main reason for this is because oftentimes they'll have sign-up bonuses where you get $45 or $60 for signing up as a new member. And for them, a new member is someone who's had their membership expired for at least 18 months. Since we don't care about the length of the membership history, we end up just canceling whenever it's advantageous. On one hand, pretty stupid, and I'd argue that it's a waste of brain cells. On the other hand, maybe because I grew up on the lower income spectrum, I'm still someone that likes to save money. And to be fair, it's not a lot, probably not even worth thinking about, but yeah, it's still there. Pretty weak reason, but there you have it. Main takeaway, I think this is a solid card, and even if you look at other options, there are some better picks if you spend quite a bit more on gas, but this is good. There are some edge case arguments, but it's something that I'd happily happily recommend to friends and family. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on our website, asksebby.com, down below in the description box. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave a chicken emoji in the comments down below for Costco chicken, and I'll try to harden and also respond. My question for you is, what are your thoughts on the Citi Costco business card, and what's been your experience? What do you like? What don't you like? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, give this a thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Looks like everyone else is done.
Hey. Stop it. You're making me go slower.